Hello, I'm Simon and welcome to the SciRob YouTube channel. And I recently did a suspension video where I disassembled my shock absorber and my strut to see which components needed changing. And so I thought I'd just do a quick follow-up video just showing how I did a very small refurbishment on everything. I'll show you which parts I replaced, which parts I was able to reuse, and it was all done for me for around about, well, it was about £110 in the end, because eBay had a 20% offer discount code, so it all worked out quite nicely. I managed to get the job done fairly cheaply, but if you shop around you can do the same. So these both the springs off, and there's like a insulating cover that goes on the bottom of the springs, and only one of them had survived. The other spring had completely disappeared. So I started off with the shock absorbers just by using the dirt blaster lance on my jet wash, just to get rid of any ingrained dirt, clean out all nooks and crevices, and clean off any loose rust, loose flakes of paint. And this lance is brilliant. It's not sandblasting, but it really does a good job of getting the all the loose debris off the surface, ready for painting. And I did exactly the same with the springs. Any bits of partially plastic coating doesn't do any good. In fact, it does more harm because it just traps moisture. So I just blasted off any loose bits of plastic. Then with the shock absorbers themselves, I just did a bit of wet and dry sanding, just to scrub up the surface a little bit, and just to make sure I didn't have any high spots of corrosion. And then just using a brake caliper paint that I'd left over, I just gave them a very cursory spray. And this isn't a high quality job, but it's just basically to add a few extra layers to improve the look of a rusty shock absorber, but also just to add a few extra layers of protection that rain and debris has to get through, in order to help prolong the life of the shock. And so they're the old bearings and top mounts. So I've got them off both of the struts now. And with any bearing really, if you're able to spin it freely like that, and you'll hear a real roughness going on when you do that kind of thing, it's time for change. But as you can see, the whole plate's distorted, so that's why I was fitting new parts. This was the upper spring seat which I showed in the previous video. The other one wasn't quite as badly damaged, but at the end of the day it's like winning a least smelly poo competition. They're both rubbish and needed changing. So this is my box of bits, so I'll go through what I'm reusing and then what was replaced. So I was reusing the bump stop caps. They cleaned up fine with the Dremel wire brush. I just needed to scrub the bearing caps just in hot soapy water. And then even the gaiters, they came up great after a soaking in hot soapy water and cleaning with a toothbrush. There's no rips or tears, so they were able to be reused. So I got new bump stops. I would have liked to have got Febby ones, but they were out of stock till August. So I ended up with these here. They only cost about £17, and they seem decent enough quality, and they just clip into the bump stop cap as I showed there. And that's a brand new upper spring seat. So using the diagram, I have Vida, which is the Volvo parts catalogue. Using that, it also showed that I needed to have the upper and lower spring seat protectors. Well, they're not protectors, but they're just kind of damping to reduce metal on metal contact. And having a parts catalogue really makes a difference, because you can get the part numbers, and then once you've got the part numbers, it unlocks lots of possibilities for buying aftermarket components. So these are the spring upper and lowers, as you can see in the diagram just there. And So the lower one, you can see the little tabs, they fit down onto the shock absorber base, and then the upper ones, they fit inside the upper spring seat, and so you can see how it lines up just there. Now you can either secure them in place using RTV, silicone glue, rubber glue, or you can just put them in freehand. If you're doing it freehand, I would recommend doing a couple of reference marks around the edge, because it's very easy for the upper spring seat and this liner to become misaligned as you're putting the shock together. So a couple of reference marks will make sure everything stays in line and fits in correctly. So that's how the new upper spring seat will fit into the new strut bearing. Nice and easy, and very nice smooth action now. So this is the strut complete. There's a more detailed video showing the strut disassembly. So this is just the completed article. You can see the spring sitting nicely now in its new rubber mountings at the top and the bottom. And it's just looking a whole lot better than it was before. Then just the final job of putting on the strut bearing cap, and then the securing bolt just to hold everything in place. And that's it, ready to go back on the car and looking a whole lot better than it did before for around about £110. And you know, when you look at the comparison of what's going back on the car as opposed to what came off the car, I'm very pleased with the end result, and I hope you find that useful.